the scorching sands of the Egyptian desert, there exists something that has consumed the minds of archaeologists, historians, and explorers for over 2,000 years. Not a pyramid, not a tomb, something far more enigmatic. The Greek historian Herodotus called it the most impressive structure he had ever seen, surpassing even the pyramids themselves. Yet today, almost no one has heard of it. This is the story of the lost labyrinth of Egypt, a subterranean complex so vast, so architecturally impossible, that its very existence challenges everything we think we know about ancient engineering. What happened to this wonder of the ancient world? Why was it buried? And what secrets still lie beneath the desert floor, waiting to be discovered? For over a century, archaeologists have searched for definitive proof of this structure's full extent. What they found raises more questions than answers. Beneath the sands near the Hawara pyramid, ground-penetrating radar has revealed something extraordinary. A massive geometric anomaly. A pattern of chambers and corridors extending deep underground, matching descriptions written over 2 millennia ago. But here's what makes this discovery truly unsettling. The technology required to build what these scans suggest shouldn't have existed in ancient Egypt. The precision, the scale, the sheer audacity of the engineering. We're talking about a structure that may have contained 3,000 rooms, spanning multiple underground levels, built with such sophistication that modern engineers struggle to explain how it was accomplished without contemporary machinery. And perhaps most mysteriously, it seems to have been deliberately concealed, buried beneath sand and time, as if someone wanted it forgotten.
The question that haunts every researcher who studies this site is simple, yet profound. What was so important, so powerful, so dangerous, that it required a structure of this magnitude to contain it? And why, after standing for centuries as one of Egypt's most celebrated monuments, did it vanish from history? To understand the magnitude of what we're discussing, we need to go back to the source, to the testimony of someone who actually saw the labyrinth in its full glory. In the 5th century BCE, the Greek historian Herodotus traveled through Egypt, documenting everything he witnessed. He was not easily impressed. He had seen the Parthenon in Athens, the great temples of Greece, structures that represented the pinnacle of Mediterranean architecture. But when he visited the Egyptian labyrinth at Hawara, he was overwhelmed. In his writings, he states clearly that the labyrinth surpasses even the pyramids. Let that sink in for a moment. The pyramids. Those eternal monuments that have dominated our imagination of ancient Egypt, were considered secondary to this structure. Herodotus describes a building of 12 covered courts with doors facing each other, 6 to the north and 6 to the south. He writes of 3,000 rooms, 1,500 above ground and 1,500 below. He was permitted to tour the upper chambers, which he describes as an endless maze of passages connecting chamber after chamber, courtyards within courtyards, an architectural puzzle of such complexity that he required guides to prevent him from becoming hopelessly lost. But here's where his account becomes even more intriguing. The Egyptian priests who served as his guides absolutely refused to show him the lower chambers. They told him these underground sections contained the tombs of the kings who built the labyrinth and the tombs of sacred crocodiles. These lower levels, they insisted, could not be viewed by foreign eyes. Herodotus wasn't the only ancient writer to document this structure. Strabo, the Greek geographer who lived in the 1st century BCE, also visited and described the labyrinth. He confirms the vast scale, mentioning numerous courts and chambers, with winding passages connecting them in such a way that a stranger could not find their way without a guide. Pliny the Elder, writing in the 1st century CE, adds more detail, describing the labyrinth as built by King Amenemhet, containing temples to all the gods of Egypt. He mentions that the structure had become partly ruined even by his time, but its legendary status remained intact. These weren't myths or legends. These were eyewitness accounts from credible historians who saw this structure firsthand. The labyrinth was real, documented, visited by foreigners and locals alike. It stood as one of the most important religious and administrative centers of ancient Egypt for over 1,000 years. And then, sometime between the Roman period and the early modern era, it disappeared. Not just abandoned, not just fallen into ruin, but literally buried and forgotten, its location lost to history. For centuries, the labyrinth existed only in these ancient texts, filed away as another mysterious claim from the ancient world that couldn't be verified. Most scholars assumed the descriptions were exaggerations, that perhaps there had been a large temple complex that grew in the retelling into something far more grandiose than reality. But in the 19th century, when European archaeologists began systematic excavations in Egypt, they started looking for physical evidence. And what they found was both thrilling and frustrating in equal measure. The breakthrough came when archaeologists began focusing on the area around Hawara, near the Faiyum Oasis, about 60 miles south of Cairo. This location matched the ancient descriptions. Sir Flinders Petrie, one of the founding figures of modern Egyptology, excavated at Hawara in the 1890s. He found massive limestone foundations, scattered blocks of granite and basalt, fragments of columns, and evidence of a structure of enormous proportions. But the building itself was gone, systematically dismantled in antiquity. The stone had been carried away, repurposed for other construction projects during the Roman and later periods. What remained were tantalizing traces, enough to confirm that something massive had indeed stood there, but not enough to reveal the structure's full nature. Petrie estimated that the surface footprint of the labyrinth had been approximately 1,000 feet by 800 feet, making it one of the largest buildings in ancient Egypt. But surface measurements only tell part of the story. The ancient sources all emphasize the underground components, those mysterious lower chambers that Herodotus was forbidden from seeing. And this is where modern technology enters our story, revealing something that would have been impossible to detect through conventional excavation alone. In 2008, a Belgian and Egyptian team led by Louis de Cordier conducted ground-penetrating radar surveys at Hawara. Ground-penetrating radar works by sending electromagnetic pulses into the Earth and measuring the reflected signals, creating a three-dimensional image of what lies beneath the surface without disturbing the ground. What the radar revealed was stunning. Beneath the sand and limestone fragments, the scans showed a vast network of geometric anomalies, structures that appear to be chambers and corridors extending deep underground, arranged in a precise grid-like pattern. The survey detected these anomalies at depths reaching up to 15 meters below the current surface level. The implications are staggering. If these readings are accurate, and most geophysicists who have reviewed the data believe they are, then substantial portions of the labyrinth's underground sections may still exist, preserved beneath the desert.